This just in, and it's a bombshell to start the day. You're getting the unfiltered scoop right here, fresh off the press. The Lions are reeling after their season opener, and there's a fire burning behind the scenes. The question on my mind is this an early red flag? Before we dive headfirst into the news, I gotta get real with you. Did you know that almost 90% of you watching right now still haven't clicked that subscribe button? You're missing out on the real no BS analysis from Lions Nation Central. So don't sleep on it, hit that button right now and join the crew, because this is the true home of the Honolulu Blue. Alright, let's get into it. As we all saw, it wasn't the season opener we dreamed of. The Lions fell to the Packers 27-13, and it felt like a cold bucket of water on the whole fan base. Everyone expected the same energy from last year, but the team seemed to be playing without a soul. They lacked that fire, that grit that only Detroit brings. And you know what really hurt? The absence of coordinators Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn. The offense looked lost, and the defense was all over the place. There's no way around it. Their hands-on approach was sorely missed. But what stung the most was seeing Aiden Hutchinson, our monster, start so slow. The guy was coming back from injury, with the whole crowd buzzing, flags waving, waiting for an explosion. But nothing. 0 tackles, 0 sacks, nothing that reminded us of the Hutch who strikes fear in any quarterback. And then there was the controversy. He had that play where he took down Jordan Love and a personal foul was called, adding to the mess and injuring Zach Tom in the process. Man, that's when the crowd's patience started to run thin. To be honest with you, it bugged me. Because Hutchinson isn't just another guy. He's the face of the franchise, the future, the kind of player we want to carry the weight of that jersey. To see him disappear was painful, and even worse, on opening day. Columnists are already calling him out, saying he did himself 0 favors and is burning leverage on his contract negotiation. And listen, that matters, because Brad Holmes isn't going to hand out a Brinks truck full of cash if Hutch doesn't start producing right away. And then came the cruel comparison. On the other side, the Packers debuted Micah Parsons, who came over from the Cowboys. And that dude, on his very first snap, flew right past Penei Sewell, who isn't just anyone, he's an all-pro. He then went on to get a sack and put pressure on Goff all afternoon. That felt like a slap in the face. While Hutch vanished, Parsons was already showing why he was worth every penny. That kind of difference is what drives us crazy in the stands. Of course, you can't roast Hutch for just one game. He's elite talent. He's already proven that. But he needs to respond now, because if he doesn't, confidence will melt. And you know what happens to a team that loses confidence early? Their season is compromised before Christmas. Now here's the irony. While we were hurting here, out in California, Matthew Stafford was breaking an NFL record. 17 straight Week 1 starts, no one has that. Our ex showing consistency while our new era is stumbling. That's just how life goes. So, I'll leave you with this provocation. Will Hutchinson silence the critics in the next game, or are we going to have to start talking about real pressure on him? I want to see your take in the comments, because this conversation is just getting started. And hold on tight, because the next news directly affects our offensive line. Okay, if there's one thing that's already a headache this season, it's the offensive line. Against the Packers, it was clear the interior couldn't hold up, and now the news is out. The Lions have brought in a reinforcement. He's not a star, but it's a move born of necessity. I'm talking about Devin Cochran, a former Bengal who just signed to the practice squad. And honestly, this move says a lot about the situation. Dan Campbell confirmed that Jamarco Jones won't be back this year. He has an ankle injury, and his season is over. That already shook things up, and to make matters worse, Dan Skipper, who was also a reserve, felt something and wasn't 100% last week. So there was no choice. They had to bring someone in to add depth. Cochran doesn't have a resume that's going to scare anyone, but he has miles on him. He played 9 games for the Bengals last year, had 1 start, and totaled about 152 snaps. Nothing special, but at least it shows he can survive on the field. PFF gave him a grade of 50.6, which isn't anything to get excited about, but it's not a complete disaster either. He's that typical rotation player. He won't fix everything, but he'll help plug a hole. The cool part is that he crossed paths with Jahmyr Gibbs in college at Georgia Tech. It's a small connection, but that always helps in the locker room. The guy's been around, started at Vanderbilt, then finished his college career in Atlanta, and in the NFL, he's been on that up-and-down roster roller coaster we all know so well for O-linemen. He wasn't drafted and signed as an undrafted free agent in 2022, bouncing on and off the Bengals roster until they finally let him go. What stands out to me is his story about training against Trey Hendrickson, the great edge rusher from the Bengals. He said it toughened him up, that his body felt the punishment every day, and that it was good for him. Okay, it's motivational talk, but it also shows he's not the kind of guy who backs down. And honestly, on a team that values a fighting culture, like Campbell preaches, that's worth something. Now let's not get it twisted. Cochran isn't coming in to save anything. He's coming in for depth, to keep things from completely falling apart. On Sunday, we saw Manu and Iguacun thrown into the fire, and it was the NFL debut for both of them. That's huge pressure. In a long season, you need to have guys ready to step up when someone goes down. Cochran could be that guy, at least to hold down the fort. To be honest with you, I look at this and think, this kind of reinforcement doesn't get the fans excited, but it shows the front office is paying attention. Better than standing still and waiting for a bigger disaster. A season is a marathon, not a sprint. And now for the question that remains. Can Cochran truly earn a spot, or will he just be another name that passes through the practice squad without making a mark? Write down what you think, because the next piece of news is heating things up, and it's about a defensive reinforcement that could change the rotation. Now listen up, because this is where the conversation really gets spicy. There are strong rumors swirling that the Lions could be looking closely at Oshane Ximines. And listen, this isn't just locker room gossip, it's that kind of behind-the-scenes speculation that only those who follow closely catch wind of. And let's be real, after John Kaminsky's retirement, there's been a tough hole to fill in that edge rotation. Ximines isn't a magazine cover star, but he has the pedigree to help. He spent a good amount of time with the Giants, had some interesting flashes, and accumulated 6.5 sacks there. Then he bounced around with the Patriots, but his 2024 season was stalled by a knee injury. That dropped his market value, and today he's looking like that classic low-cost target. You know the type. He won't require a suitcase full of money, but he can provide some good utility at the right moment. And you know what's the kicker? His versatility. In addition to rushing the quarterback, he also helps on special teams. It's not every day you find a player who's willing to take on multiple roles without complaining. For a team that needs depth in the front seven and is still trying to find its defensive identity, that's valuable. Dan Campbell loves that kind of player who doesn't pick and choose where he plays. Another thing that matters is his locker room profile. Ximines isn't a loudmouth or a vocal leader, but he's a guy who gets the job done. His time with the Giants and Patriots brought him discipline. And let's face it, discipline and effort are two words that fit perfectly with Campbell's philosophy. This is exactly the kind of guy who can fit in without causing any problems. Of course, it all depends on the medical side of things. His knee needs to be evaluated. No one's going to risk bringing in an injured player just to fill a roster spot. And we also have to see if he's a tactical fit for Aaron Glenn's scheme. But honestly, for the low price, I think it's worth the bet. Especially because the edge rotation is thin. Hutchinson can't carry it all by himself. He needs someone who can give him a breather. Now let me be straight with you, the fan base is already divided. Some people think it's a waste of energy and that it's better to let a young guy get a chance. And there's another group that says, just sign him. We need bodies and experience. Honestly, I'm somewhere in the middle. I don't think we can sit on our hands when the market has options that fit our budget. And look, we have the cap space. So I'll leave you with this provocation. If Ximines arrives, will he be a piece that truly makes a difference or just a stopgap until someone better comes along? I want to see what you think in the comments because this story could define a lot about the defense in the coming months. And don't you dare blink because the fourth piece of news is really going to hit a nerve. A big-name player is shining in the PFF grades. And then came the good surprise in the middle of all the pain against the Packers. Because yes, there was someone on defense who made us proud, and I'm not talking about just anyone, Brian Branch. The kid showed up as one of the highest graded players by PFF in the opener, with a grade of 85.1. In a game where almost everything went wrong, he was the one who shined. Now let me tell you, early on, he did one of those things that makes you bite your nails. He grabbed Tucker Kraft's helmet and threw it away, drawing an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty. I swear, I almost yelled at my TV, "Why, kid, why?" But then he took a breath, got his head straight, and he was a giant. He had great reads, explosiveness, and a real presence. That diving interception that could have been a pick six was straight out of a video game. But then, Rock Ya-Sin messed it up with a holding penalty. Man, if that touchdown had counted, the game would have turned around right then and there. And that's the kind of detail that hurts. Because we saw flashes of a dominant defense, but they were swallowed up by a stupid mistake. Even so, Branch came out of the game looking great. The fan who looks beyond the score knows that he's the future. If he's already delivering this now, imagine in a few months when he's in full rhythm. On offense, it was a different story. Penei Sewell held his own and was the highest graded with a 70.8. Laporta also came in over 70. The rest, a struggle. Jared Goff ended with numbers that looked decent on paper, 31 of 39 with one touchdown, but PFF graded him at only 45.5. That shows that cold statistics can sometimes be misleading. He was uncomfortable, pressured, and lacked any sparkle. Even Glasgow was graded below him. It was tough to watch. To be honest with you, I see this game as a clear snapshot of what's at stake. The defense has rough diamonds, guys like Branch who can change the game. But they have to cut out the dumb penalties because otherwise, all the effort goes down the drain. And on offense, John Morton needs to find an identity fast, because a unit that only manages one touchdown in the opener, that's not enough. And the fans won't forgive it. There were already groups on the Lions Nation forum saying that if it wasn't for Branch, the score would have been even uglier. Is it an exaggeration? Maybe, but it gives you a sense of how quickly the kid is earning his place. So, here's a thought for you to chew on. Can Branch already become the quiet leader of the defense this season? The guy who commands respect even though he's young? I want you to tell me in the comments, because this conversation is just getting started. And don't leave just yet, because I'm going to tie everything together with a conclusion that's going to hit the heart of the Blue Nation. Look, when you put everything that's happened in the last few days together, it gives you chills. Hutchinson on the hot seat, Cochran arriving just to plug a hole, Simonese rumors shaking up the defense, and Branch showing that he can be a rare gem. It's a pressure cooker, my friend. The truth is, this team is at a turning point, and the Blue Nation can feel it. It could be the beginning of a downfall or the start of a historic turnaround. I'm betting on the second. So comment below, because this is the real home of the Lions Nation, and get ready for the next hot take.